Hello, beautiful people, and welcome back to my podcast where you can gain insight on my perspective. My name is Hayden, and this is episode 11 of 24 lessons I've learned in my 24 years of life. The title of this week's podcast is Be Open to New Perspectives. If you know me, you know this tattoo that I have. I got the word perspective tattooed on me, and the letters are all flipped around because no matter how you look at it, you're always looking at it from a different perspective. At the time that I got it, I knew that there was a deeper meaning to it that I didn't quite grasp because it just goes so deep. I did pull it from Pinterest. It was a Pinterest tattoo. More people have it, but it meant something really deep to me that I'm still discovering as an adult. So I'd never regret this tattoo. It was something that was very important, very special to me. And it is a really good reminder, even when I have strangers grab my arm and be like, what does that say? Which, first of all, keep your hands to yourself. Keep your hands to yourself. Do not touch me. But also, yes, you may see my tattoo and they'll stand there and be like, how do you, and they're getting anxious because they can't read it, right? And I was like, just read it left to right. And they're like, I can't. And I was like, you can. And they're like, oh, what's that mean? I was like, the other way. And they're like, perspective. Oh my God. And then they think it's so cool. And I'm like, it just shows, even in those moments, it just shows how different everybody's perspective is. And for me, this is something I can talk so heavily about for hours on end with the right person. My best friend Libby, whose house I'm in right now, I could talk to her for hours about multiple perspectives. The ones who get it, you know? So growing up, I would consistently flip my perspective to try and see from somebody else's, which at that time, I never utilized the word perspective in my vocabulary. I went based off the saying, put yourself in somebody's shoes, or you haven't walked a mile unless you walked in somebody else's shoes, or try walking a mile in somebody else's shoes. Something like that. And I was like, okay, I always took things very literally as a kid. So I envisioned myself stepping into somebody's shoes and walking. I literally would envision that anytime I would come across somebody. Whenever I'd go to Walmart with my mom, I would envision the people walking around us. And I'm like, that person right there. And I would try to make up something about their life. But if I heard them talking about something, I envisioned myself stepping in their shoes and walking around. That was my way of trying to see from multiple perspectives. All the toys I had as a kid, I played with Playmobil toys and I had all these random ass toys, and they all had different personalities and different perspectives, and every single time I played there was a new perspective, and I would shift the storyline, or I would shift where I was standing while I was playing with the toys, and I'm seeing other things and I'm creating this world, and I was like, I can create my own world from my own perspective. That was a very tip of the iceberg moment as a kid. And now that I think about it, I look back, just got a little emotional going back because it just brings out a strong emotion. I went back and I saw how deep my mind was trying to go at that age. Why didn't I let it? What stopped me? But obviously I can't go back in time, and I've learned so much as an adult, and I'm so beyond grateful that I have learned so much as an adult. And to be honest, there's nothing I would change. I would never go back in time and change anything because I would never want to change the trajectory of my life. And I will always say that. That is something I firmly believe in, is never going back in time to change anything, because I love my life. And even if I was hating it, I don't think I would go back either. Even if I didn't like my life, because I've had many moments in my life where I've hated my life. More me hating myself, which then made me hate my life, which was just dramatic. I mean, all of my feelings were valid and real, and that's how I genuinely felt. But looking back, that part of me was just going through a rough time and couldn't see the brighter side of things. But now I do. So yeah, I would never go back in time to change anything, because where I'm at right in this moment is exactly where I need to be, and I'm so beyond grateful for where I'm at now, seeing life through this perspective and constantly learning from other people's perspectives. I love that I'm in my best friend's apartment right now and seeing from her and her fiance's perspective, and just seeing how they decorate things and seeing life through their perspective. And when they take me out through Asheville and they show me their favorite spots and they show me people that they know, I'm seeing how they view people, and it's so cool. And that's what my mind is consistently thinking about in the background, you know? You know, like how you have like programs running in the background of your computer or your phone or something, and they're constantly going? That's how it is with me. And like, it is just so cool to see because I love these people so much. I love these girls so much. And seeing life through their lens is so beautiful to me because they do see life as a very beautiful thing and it's something to be celebrated. And I was with them when they were going through such a hard time, such a hard, like a ridiculously hard time. They still kept planning for the future and working through things and taking things day by day. And they're at a point in their lives where I am just incredibly proud of them for both for pushing through and pursuing their dreams. And even though it's been taking time, like all good things do, they have made it to a point where I am just like, I'm so proud of their success in so many ways. And I love saying that in their apartment. It's just, it's a full circle moment because we all came from a very similar place and we all met in a very similar place, and it was just, it's incredible to see all of our growth. I'm just so grateful to be a part of their family and them be a part of mine, and to be able to see life through their lens as well, but through my perspective too. But when you see through somebody else's perspective, you gain so much insight, which is all about this podcast. I'm letting you guys see life through my lens, life through my perspective. You are gaining insight on it. Well, depending on what you get from it, I hope you would gain insight from my perspective. And I make these so that you guys can think about yours. Think about how you're seeing the world and treating yourself and thinking and just becoming more connected with yourself. I will never stop talking about how amazing and cool it is that everybody in this world has a completely different perspective. Something I love pointing out, which like makes my brain hurt sometimes, is that you could be looking at the same exact thing that somebody else is looking at, and you are both seeing it in a different way because you both have two different perspectives. Even if you stood at the same angle to look at the same thing, they have a different lens than you. They're looking at that very differently, which is why people also see. When I lived in Ohio, I always said, I hate Ohio. I hate that there's like a bunch of nothingness here. And when I moved to Florida and I was telling people about Ohio, they're like, that's interesting because I feel like I would like the peace and quiet because I grew up in this city and I hate this city, but you like this city. So it's all about our perspective and how we view things. When you're so accustomed to something, I mean, you just get really used to it. You build an opinion around what you're used to, and until you branch off to go and try something new or live somewhere else or do something different, then you're not able to see it from a different perspective. If you're over here, for example, I know people from my hometown, literally generations born and raised in that town, and they've just like grown with it. And some people, like, the only time they venture out is to maybe take a vacation, but they would never live anywhere else, which to each their own. I don't want to put anybody down for not leaving because clearly that's something they want, no matter what that situation is. And there's also people who are in that same situation where they grew up there, they lived there their whole lives, it's a generational thing, and they want to leave. They want to branch out and move away and see other parts of the world because they feel stuck and stagnant in one place, which a lot of people I've met in Florida feel the same because I come there and I'm like, oh my God, the beach is so beautiful. This weather is so nice. The weather, that's a whole thing. But most of the time, 50% of the time, the weather is like incredible and it's so beautiful and you're just close. I already said the beach. That's my favorite aspect of Florida. The vibes are so different from where I grew up. It's beach town. It's like a mix of country and hipster and bougie, and there's such a vibe in Florida. And when I go back to Ohio, I noticed that this is like a very similar vibe is there, minus the beach, right? And I'm like, oh, I was seeing this through a lens of, I hate this place, so it looked ugly to me. It looked unattractive. I hated my hometown, whatever. As I've been revisiting over the years, I started paying more attention to those feelings I was feeling. And I had a lot of resentment towards my town and people in it and the way I grew up. And there was so much healing I've had to do, which is why I continue to take these trips back up to Ohio because my family still lives there. And I always plan to see my family at least once a year and try and get my ass up there. but I don't want to hate where I'm going to visit. So I've been healing myself along the way and looking at it through a different perspective. Because obviously, if I was looking at it through the same perspective I was when I moved away, where I hated it and I made myself hate it so much, then I would not be happy going to visit. So I had to change that in order for the rest of the change to have large ramifications in my life. Another really cool thing about perspectives, I can literally talk about this all day. Here's some examples. So, is the dress white and gold or is it blue and black? That was the debate of the century, because everybody was having, like, they were struggling so much. They were like, it's white and gold. You guys are insane if you're seeing it blue and black. You guys are insane. The arguments were absolutely insane. I, based off how concentrated I was at the photo, looked at it and saw both. So I started asking other people, who else can see it in the middle? Who can see both ways? And slowly but surely, there were other people that could look at it and flip it in their mind. And then they could see the actual color of the dress, which we all know the actual color of the dress was genuinely blue and black. And because of the lighting, because of that perspective that we were seeing it in, it made us see it as white and gold. But others could not see it. And this really was a reflection of that people who were very one-sided on things, very opinionated on one side of things, in their mind, they could not see on a broad spectrum. They could only see down the narrow path that they were looking at, therefore they only saw one color or the other. And I was like, that's a crazy realization to have. So me working through that, I was like, why can I see both? And I was like, oh, because I see both sides of things. I'm very middle ground on a lot of things. Let me see if I can see it from both perspectives. Same with the audio, Yanni or Laurel. If you're in a few generations above me, you're not gonna know what I'm talking about, maybe. There's this audio that plays and it sounds like Yanni or Laurel, but there's an and under the or, because I can hear both depending on which way I tune my hearing into. If I tell myself I'm hearing Yanni, I'm hearing Yanni. If I tell myself I'm hearing Laurel, I hear Laurel. If I'm telling myself I hear Yanni and Laurel, I'm hearing it going back and forth. That was another example of a different perspective and how we all see from multiple perspectives. So next time you're chatting with somebody, get to know their perspective, get to know their views, get to know how they're seeing the world, get to know how they're seeing a specific color. The amount of arguments I've had with people, I stopped arguing because I realized that people see colors so differently. So differently. You can look at something and be like, that's pink, and they're like, that is bright red. That is bright red. I don't know what you're talking about, that is red. Or when you're looking at something and something's blue, but somebody else says it's purple, and you're like, what the heck, that's clearly this. And they're like, no, that's clearly this. When I was a kid, me and my childhood best friend, we would get into some situation and I'd be like, I saw it from this way. And she's like, no, I saw it from this way. This is exactly how it went down. I would get so pissed off because I knew myself to be right. But she was equally as passionate as about being right that I was like, you're lying. You are lying. And then she was like, no, you're lying. And I was like, how is this? What is this manipulation right now? What the hell is this? And as I got older, I didn't recognize it at that age. I was too young to comprehend that. As I got older, I was like, oh my God, we were looking at it from two different perspectives. And I can see why she thought that I did this way, or why she took it that way, because I portrayed myself as this way. And it just like, it made total sense to me. I've like released and let go of a lot of those arguments because sometimes they pop back up and it brings resentment up like for that person. And I'm like, no, that was in my childhood. Let's forget about that. Let's let it go, move on. But seeing life through that perspective is so crazy. And even within the past like year, I met somebody who's colorblind. And seeing how he saw colors was so fascinating to me because I was like, you literally don't see the same colors that I'm seeing. You see yellow, but it's green, or I forget which variations he could see. But I was like, I hadn't met somebody in person that was colorblind. It was just so fascinating to me because I love that people have so many different perspectives. It is something my brain's gonna explode talking about this. I'm very passionate about perspectives, and so much that I felt the need to get it tattooed on me when I was 18. Look at life through multiple perspectives, because you are going to gain more knowledge, you're going to gain more insight. The world is literally going to open up before you, and you're going to be seeing life in such a different way. Such a different way. Me standing here now, I'm like, do y'all know how crazy this is? Do I sound crazy? Probably. But I know this to be true because I've looked at life through multiple perspectives, not projections, through their perspectives. You take the information that person tells you, put yourself in their shoes, genuinely listen to that person's feelings, and see life how they're seeing it. Because you could see somebody else's situation so much better than they're seeing it, and they're going to be upset as to why you're seeing it as a positive thing. And you're like, well, I'm seeing it from this perspective, but you're focused on everything negative about the situation going on, so of course you're upset about it. Of course you're depressed about it. Vice versa. Somebody can see you being super happy, and then they could be like, I could see why you're so happy. Because you have all of this going on, and everything's so beautiful. XYZ, you know? I'm very passionate about that. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's episode. I hope you guys are able to check out life from multiple perspectives. If you guys feel like interacting at any point, let me know about how you see life. Let me know if you guys encountered somebody where you were able to see life from their perspective. I think it's a very cool thing, and I promise you, you will not be disappointed when you do so. With that being said, please give this video a like, comment, rating, review, however you feel like showing your support for this podcast series. That I'm just so grateful I get to do this for myself and for you guys. I know I have a lot of listeners. I've been seeing our downloads go up every week, which is incredible. So thank you all to everybody who's listening and sharing this with friends and family. I'm so grateful. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning into this week's podcast. I will catch you guys in next week's. Have a wonderful week.